I know. Hey everybody, we are back at PAX East 2018 with Don from Super Scary Games, here to talk about Black Future 88.
We're Super Scary Snakes.
Snakes.
His actual studio name. And at Twitter, it's at Super Scary Snake.
There you go.
Yeah.
No S.
I'm awesome. This is Greg. You know. So yeah, we're here to talk about your game. It's how would you describe it? Like side-scrolling action?
I would describe it as a kind of apocalyptic synth-punk action roguelike.
There you go.
It's a lot of qualifiers, but it's a lot of game too. So
yeah, I had a chance to play it earlier because I got here a little early. The other folks were streaming, and you're our neighbor. So we've been for people back home, we're staring at his game
all day.
All day. So it's like, we should probably have him on and talk about it.
Yeah, just like me, always staring at it at home.
Yeah, he's been standing right off screen just staring at us all day.
He's like,
who are these
invite me.
Would you like to come on, Don? He's like,
okay.
No,
well,
I'm
if
cool.
you insist, all right,
Away.
sure.
Well, if I guess, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of busy, but
I guess.
So I got to do one playthrough of it. I did die. I think that's a very common occurrence.
Every game ends with you dying.
Yeah.
There's, yes.
So is this... It's not procedurally generated,
It
right?
is procedural generated.
It is?
What?
It's half procedural. It's procedural enough, is what I call it.
Okay.
But it is hand-built rooms stitched together in a procedural world. And then there's another layer of proceduralness that happens during the game. It's really similar to Enter the Gungeon or Binding of Isaac.
Broforce. I see some Broforce in there.
Oh, it is?
Oh no, I look at Broforce. It kind of looks like Broforce.
Yeah, it looks like Broforce.
It doesn't play like Broforce.
Doesn't play like
I
it.
haven't played it. I've only
like
been seeing it consistently.
One thing I noticed is that you're using the right analog for firing weapons, which is, it reminds me of like a Smash TV kind of controls.
Yeah,
or something.
it controls almost like it's a dual stick game. For a game that's based entirely around guns, we don't actually have a fire button. You aim and shoot. And it's to make people always aim and to make people not rely on shooting in front of them like a game, like really good games like Rogue Legacy and Dead Cells do. But this really emphasizes the verticality, the always moving part, because you're always aiming and you're always moving and always shooting.
I like how you use the background as like instructional. So the first screen, it's like, here's the second screen, I think. It's a picture of the controller with like how to do it.
Yeah.
There's a time where like you're stuck on a wall. It's like, no, go this way.
Go this way.
It's like dash, I think is what it says.
Yeah.
And it's like this spray painted art style.
It's because I'm from Oakland, California, and I'm barely survived the 80s. So it's spray paint, graffiti, just all that.
So you're a warrior.
I'm a warrior.
That's a great film. Speaking of, like, what were some of your inspirations for making the game? I can see some elements of, like, obviously 80s in there a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely not really game inspired. It's more film inspired.
Yeah.
And a lot of like crazy film stuff is inspired mechanics in the game. For me, RoboCop 2, as insane of a movie as it was, having a robot that's addicted to drugs because there's a drug dealer's brain in it, and you have to feed it drugs. That's an insane idea.
It is.
That's very much in this game. So there's a drug system. If you do too many, you get addicted, and that has a lot of problems and benefits. But because it's a roguelike, you really cater your build to kind of how you can succeed in the game.
So are you essentially saying that there's an Ed 209 in your game?
There is not. It's a lot. You're fighting a lot of machinery. You're fighting a lot of humans. But you yourself, there's one new playable character who's secretly a machine, but no one knows it.
Okay.
But he can't get addicted to drugs.
Interesting.
But, yeah, it's.
Can you talk about some of the challenges of making a 2D roguelike game in 2018?
A 2D roguelike game in 2018? Yeah. Well, it's a really well-explored genre.
Yeah.
And this game started without a design document. It's all organic. I started making, like, I really want to make a roguelike. I want to get back into games, but as an indie this time. I really like roguelikes. It's all I play because I have a dad and I can't play a 4-hour play session. It has to be like short sessions. So, it's so well explored that a top-down roguelike isn't going to get any attention.
Right.
So unless it has exceptional production value. So, change it to a platformer, sure. And then when you change a roguelike to a platformer and it moves fast, it's not like Spelunky, which is great, but it has its own pace. When you change it to a platformer and you want to make a bullet hell, you have a lot of problems. So all the design around it the reason you die in 18 minutes, the reason you can dash through walls is to help you get away from bullets and to make it fair. So moving into a platformer and it created a lot of problems and a really rich design space. So it's pretty awesome.
How many weapons will the players have available to them? I think in the game when I was playing, I had 2.
You always have 2.
Okay.
Sometimes they break. Sometimes you can get a buff that lets you carry 3. Sometimes you only have 1. One player can throw weapons. The game right now, the demo has about 30, 35 weapons. The full game has a lot more.
Oh, wow.
It's very weapon focused. Some of them are melee. They all have, the game is really built around awesome things with crazy trade-offs and crazy downsides. So you want to kind of build for really good synergy, but avoid like negative synergies. So yeah.
Do you have a favorite weapon in the game that you just
The Kinetic Lance.
I think I saw that it like blows in front of you.
Cool.
Yeah, so the Kinetic Lance is a melee weapon for, in a game about guns. We have a lot of melee weapons. And when you dash, it charges for 2 seconds and it puts you can kill a lot of stuff and it feels really good. The camera zooms in, it slows down, and it glows, and it just feels really good. But if it's not charged, it just sucks. So it makes you play a certain way, and that's my favorite. We also have a teleporting railgun. So so it's the night
You
nail.
had me at teleporting railgun.
Yeah, so when you kill something, it swaps places.
Awesome.
Or no, with this one, when you hit something, you swap places. And this is a way to make the player, give them chances to avoid bullets.
Yeah.
It lets you have more bullets on the screen, and that's fun to me.
Oh no, that's super cool because like you can see the bullets coming at you in this game. Some of the opponents have like slower projectiles coming at you. So if you can hit them with a rail, get around them, then you don't have to worry about this.
They fire a bunch of bullets at you, then you just swap places with them.
That's cool.
So that is really fun. You get a buff that makes them bounce off walls, so then you can bounce. You can hit a bunch of enemies. Swap places with all of them. It usually gets you killed, but it's great. It's really fun.
When you die, it says you bled to death. Are you able to pick up blood vials to stay alive?
Yeah. It's not a cheap resource, but when you kill a boss, you get a bunch of health. It should heal you all the way up. We're going to add some synthetic blood. It's basically a drug. We have a drug system in the game. And it's basically really cheap health that you can buy. But it's a drug, and you can get addicted to it, and that has problems when you're addicted.
Yeah.
So.
No, when you die, you have this like stat list.
Yeah.
Is that like because it instantly made me want to play again. But did you kind of build this with like speed running in mind or something?
Yeah, I did. It's, unfortunately for a procedural game, we don't know the tower layout because it's unknowable.
Yeah.
It's hard to speed run that.
Yeah.
So. But we add time pressure, and we want people to play with a speedrunner mentality of, you're gonna die before your 18 minutes is up, and you'll get stuff that'll extend that time, but you're gonna die of a lot of other stuff. But it's that extra pressure, and we want people to play hard and play fast and make really risky moves and then live with the consequences or die with the consequences.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that's going to be a huge element of the replayability of this game.
Yeah, it's really about mastering the content. Mechanically, it's pretty simple. Like, the enemies don't have a lot of health. You kill them very, very easily and very quickly. But it's learning all the downsides of the content, learning what guns are bad at, and what buffs are bad for you and how they're good for you, that the players are going to like.
Yeah.
No, you have like a gorgeous animated intro. Talk a little about that.
So Good Shepherd, amazing partner. They put together a trailer, and they did the whole thing in 3 weeks. They hired a team just for this trailer, and they built a team just for the trailer, and they turned around in 3 weeks. And they did a whole animatic. It's really good. Then they cut together the trailer with a gameplay guy, and it's great. I like it a lot.
I love me some 2D animated graphics doing that.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what? Looks amazing.
Yeah. No, and how are you going to convey the story to players? Is there a story, really?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
It's environmental. I'm into show, don't tell.
Yep.
So it's I hate to cite Dark Souls because it's kind of cliche now, but environmental storytelling.
How is your game like Dark Souls?
Environmental storytelling. So there's no stamina bar, but I think creating a world and creating a vibe and having players figure it out at the end of the day, it's an action game. There is a story, but they need to do the work to figure it out.
Yeah, when I saw it, I thought Contra. When I played it, I was like, this is not like anything I've ever played before.
It's like
actually.
Spelunky Contra,
yeah.
I guess. It's kind of a good way to describe it.
It's a very unique gameplay mechanic because you've chosen like the traditional, trigger would be shoot. Nope.
No, not anymore.
Yeah, but at the same time, I found it very easy to pick up and play.
Yeah.
So it's not like difficult to learn controls, but they're different.
It's a little inventive, I guess. Yeah.
And this is built on Unity?
Yes, it is.
You talk about why you chose that, and is it easier to build a 2D game on that platform?
So my original background is in programming, and I like systems design, and I think the language of building in Unity in C# is really good. It compiles fast. It lets you build really cool systems because it's just a high-level language. I'm just not as good at C++, honestly. Unreal has a really good high-end potential, but for a 2D game, I think Unity looks good, and it's a great renderer too, so I like it a lot.
So one thing about Unity that I like is that it happens to work very well on Nintendo Switch.
That's very true.
Have you thought of bringing this game to Switch?
We have not announced anything.
But have you thought of it?
That's not a no.
I've certainly thought of it,
yeah.
But we have not announced anything.
Because I would like to play this on Nintendo Switch.
So would I.
Okay,
very
cool.
Much.
That's good to know. Right now, is it just on Steam or?
You can wishlist it on Steam. We're looking at 2018 release.
Okay, so you don't have a release date just yet.
No, we haven't. We've only announced that it'll be on PCs. 2018
And your team is incredibly small. Talk a little about your team of like 2 to 4 people. Like
it's between 2 and 4 people at any given time. Very small. I live in Oakland. It's also really expensive to live there. I work out of a pantry with windows. It's about the size of this table, I guess. Really small. So it's small. I do a lot of stuff in the game just to keep costs down, and that's why the game looks the way it is, because a full screen effect that looks very intense. A programmer can do that, and that's not really an effects artist job. So doing that with the sound design and the music and the programming, you can keep your team really small. So
you made the music?
Yes.
I think the music's great. It adds to the environment. I think it adds to that feel of this game. There's like a sense of urgency when you're playing this game. But at the same time, if you run and gun, you're going to die.
Very much.
You have to be like, it's a balance of, there's moments where you have to hustle because there's that clock. I love that you put a ticking clock in your game. Yeah. I think that's a great mechanic. But at the same time, you've made it like, you know how Doom has a little bit of battle chess, the Doom 2016 version? Yeah. This game feels to have a little bit of battle chess. And it's perfect for a roguelike because as you keep playing through it, you learn more about, that enemy shoots this way.
Yeah, that guy, you have to get him from the back or get him from the top.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can you talk about some of the different enemies you'll encounter in your game?
Oh, sure. So a lot of when you fight up the tower going through zones, you'll encounter a lot of machines, a lot of humans. Some of them have different vulnerabilities and weaknesses. The bosses, however, are all named after classic synthesizers, which is where my passion is.
So Korg, Roland?
More like the Prophet 5. Juno Jupiter, that's a paired boss fight.
Okay.
The Uberheim is a mix of Oberheim synthesizers and a ride-sharing app.
How about like Ed 909 instead of Ed 209?
We could. That's actually really good.
There you go, free idea.
Free idea check.
You don't get royalties though. But
no, I just said free.
Oh, okay, awesome. I'll take
free ideas. You can come here to Shacknews. I don't want to make games. I just want to talk about them.
Dude, also the 909 is my go-to drum machine.
Isn't it the best thing ever?
It's got the best snare.
Oh,
it's the best snare.
Did you hear that? Snare is better than clap.
Yeah. Well, I combine them.
I know, but still.
I always combine snare and clap.
But people have forgotten about snare. Electronic music's moved to clap these days.
Fools.
You need both.
You need both.
Right?
You need both.
And I'm glad that you're on my team, that 909 snare might be the better snare.
It's what makes the whole drum machine, is the 909.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything is named as much as possible after classic synthesizers. And for one of them, I kind of ran out, so I used the Tempest/Avalanche, which is, Tempest is a modern drum machine, and then the Avalanche is the name of the drum machine that the Sisters of Mercy used. Because I'm an old school goth punk kid, and that's how I grew up. So.
Awesome. So do you make music also just on the side?
Yeah, my band plays a lot. I've been in the same band for almost 10 years. We're called Tremorlow. We played some big rooms in Oakland and San Francisco. We went to South by in 2012, and after having kids, it's a lot harder to be in a touring band. So making game music has been kind of a new avenue for us.
Yeah.
And that's been really great.
That's cool to see. And I think it allows you, because you're designing the levels and the music, to kind of make the environment even more cohesive.
We actually let the music inform the rest of the game. So that's really how it started. It's a prototype, and I'm like sketching up some tracks. I'm like, oh, this is too John Carpenter. This kind of sucks. And then we kind of moved into really dirty synths, and that kind of informed the art direction of the entire game.
Do you happen to know Cartoon Violence in that band?
What's that?
Do you know the band Cartoon Violence?
I don't.
We have a staff member who lives in Oakland and plays in a band called Cartoon Violence.
Oh, really?
Wasn't sure if you guys were in the same circle or not. He uses a lot of Game Boy emulator stuff.
Really? Okay.
Stuff.
We're pretty new to like the game music scene. Like at GDC, we played the PAX 7 show at DNA Lounge. It was big. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we have to wrap up, but we really appreciate you making the long trek over from your booth to ours. The whole 4 millimeters.
Greg.
I know, but I'm double shaking his head.
It's cool.
Because it was a very difficult effort to come across here.
It's called Black Future 88. It comes out sometime this year?
Sometime this year.
Wish listed on Steam.
We linked it in the chat.
Send emails to Reggie Fils-Aimé saying, bring this to Nintendo Switch as an indie. And we look forward to hearing more about your game, man. And we appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
No problem. Well, we'll be back with more. I think we have Hearthstone coming up, Greg. So keep it locked on Shacknews Twitch. We're going to be right back.
Keep it